cafeteria was quiet that evening, the smell of cooked food drifting through the air, metal trays clinking softly as a few humans finished their meals. In the corner sat Daniel, a man who worked late shifts and often ate alone. He held a fork in his hand, slowly moving it through his dinner without much thought. To him it was nothing special, just another lonely night with a simple meal. But to the alien girl who stepped through the doorway, it was something terrifying. Her wide, glowing eyes froze at the sight. Her small, thin body shivered as if she had seen a blade pointed directly at her heart. To her kind, sharp tools had always meant pain, suffering, and control. A fork looked no different from a weapon, and she had no reason to believe it was harmless. She pressed her back against the wall, her breathing quick and shallow. Her skin carried faint marks of struggle, and her clothes were torn. It was clear she had been running, hiding, surviving on scraps. Now hunger had pushed her inside the human cafeteria, but fear kept her steps frozen. Every clink of Daniel's fork made her flinch. As though each sound was a threat, Daniel noticed her right away. At first, he thought she was just another lost traveler who had wandered too far into human territory. But her eyes, the way they locked on the fork in his hand, told him more. She wasn't just lost, she was terrified. He stopped chewing and lowered his hand slowly. His instincts told him that if he moved too fast, she might bolt like a frightened animal. The room seemed to grow colder. The few other humans nearby turned their heads, some curious, some whispering. They had never seen one of her kind up close before. Her skin shimmered faintly with pale blue light, her hair tangled, her fragile frame shaking. She looked less like an enemy and more like a child who had been hurt too many times. But the fork, still glinting in Daniel's hand, was enough to hold her hostage in her own fear. Her mind screamed warnings, images of sharp objects tearing into flesh, of pain she had once seen delivered to others like her. She hugged herself tightly, her lips trembling as if she wanted to speak but could not. Daniel felt the weight of the moment. He had no idea why she was so afraid, but he understood one thing. Whatever she saw in the fork, it wasn't food, it was danger. Slowly he placed the fork down on the tray. The metal touched the plate with a soft sound, and the alien girl's eyes flickered in confusion. Her breath still came fast, but she tilted her head slightly, as though she couldn't believe he had just disarmed himself. He raised his hands in the air, palms open, showing he had nothing. His voice was calm when he finally spoke. "It's okay," he said gently. "No one here will hurt you." The alien girl blinked. The words meant little, but his tone carried something her heart recognized. Patience, not anger, kindness, not command. Still, her body refused to relax. Hunger gnawed at her, pulling her toward the smell of food, while fear screamed at her to run. The battle played out across her trembling form. Daniel reached for a piece of bread on his tray, but not with the fork this time. He used his bare hand and placed it carefully on the edge of the table. He did not push it toward her. He simply left it there, a silent offering. The cafeteria seemed to hold its breath. Her eyes darted between the bread and his hands. Her stomach growled, betraying her hunger to everyone in the room. The humans nearby exchanged glances. Some were curious to see what would happen. Others looked uncomfortable, whispering about why she was there, but Daniel ignored them. His focus stayed on her. The alien girl took a slow step forward, then stopped. Her knees trembled. She wanted to reach for the bread, but the image of the fork still burned in her mind. She glanced at it on the tray, shining under the cafeteria lights. It looked harmless now, lying flat and motionless, yet her fear told her it could leap up at any moment. Daniel noticed her eyes fix on it again. He made a choice without a word. He picked up the fork one last time, but instead of using it, he slid it far away, letting it fall with a small clatter onto the floor. The sound echoed, making her flinch, but when she saw it lying harmlessly out of reach, something inside her shifted for the first time. Her eyes lifted from the fork and met his. They were filled with doubt, with fear, but also with a spark of curiosity. Why would a human throw away his own tool just to make her feel safe? Why would he care about her fear at all? Daniel gave her a small nod, as if to say the choice was hers. The bread sat waiting on the edge of the table, untouched, warm, real. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. She hugged herself tighter, but her eyes never left the bread. She took another step, then another. The room stayed silent, all eyes watching. She reached out with a shaking hand, her long, thin fingers brushing against the crust. Her breath caught, Her heart raced, and in that fragile moment, one question filled her mind. Was this human really offering kindness, or was it a trap waiting to close on her? And just as her fingers closed around the bread, the scene froze in unbearable suspense, leaving everyone wondering what would happen next. The bread trembled in her hands as she held it close to her chest. Her eyes never leaving Daniel, she expected him to snatch it back or punish her for daring to take it, but he only stayed quiet, watching her with a calm patience. The smell of the food filled her nose. Her stomach twisted in hunger, yet her lips trembled too much to take a bite. Daniel did not move. He leaned back slightly, giving her space. His tray still sat in front of him with more food, but the fork that had terrified her lay far away on the floor. He noticed how her eyes sometimes flicked toward it, how every muscle in her body tightened at the thought of it. That simple piece of metal still held power over her mind. Finally, she tore a small piece of the bread and placed it into her mouth. Her throat worked hard as she swallowed, as if each bite was a battle against her fear. When the taste hit her tongue, warmth spread across her face. It was real food, not a trap. Not poisoned, just food. For the first time, she allowed herself to take another bite. Larger this time, her hunger roared louder than her doubts. Daniel gave a small smile, but he stayed silent. He knew words could scare her more. He let the silence speak for him, letting her see his hands resting calmly on the table, showing no threat. But the humans around the room began to whisper. Some leaned closer to one another. "Why is he feeding her?" one muttered. "She doesn't belong here," another said. The alien girl's sharp ears picked up every word. Her shoulders hunched, shame burning into her skin. She had heard those whispers before, always followed by cruelty. Daniel noticed her shrinking posture. His jaw tightened. He turned his gaze toward the others, his eyes sharp enough to silence a few of them. Still, he said nothing. He knew this moment was fragile, every second mattered. The alien girl finally dared to sit, but only on the farthest edge of the bench. She placed the bread on the table and looked at Daniel again. Her voice was barely a whisper, broken and rough from long silence. "Why? No hurt?" she asked. Her words were clumsy but clear enough. Daniel tilted his head. Surprised she spoke, he answered softly. "Because you're hungry, not an enemy." Her lips parted slightly, the meaning hard for her to accept. In her world, kindness was not free. Kindness was often a mask before the strike. Her eyes slid back to the fork on the floor, shining faintly under the lights in her mind. That tool was proof of human cruelty. She had seen metal like that used to cut, stab, and chain. Her hand clenched the bread tighter. She whispered again, more to herself than to him. "Fork. Weapon." Her whole body shook. Daniel finally understood. The fork was the key. Her terror wasn't random. It was the object. He leaned slowly forward, resting his arms on the table. "It's not a weapon," he said gently. "It's for food. Like this." He picked up a small piece of bread with his hand, careful not to reach for any tool, and showed her how he ate it, but she did not look convinced. Her eyes remained fixed on the fork lying across the floor. He could see the storm inside her, a war between memory and reality, between what she had seen before and what he was showing her now. He made a decision. Daniel stood, walked over, and picked up the fork. The alien girl gasped sharply, her body jerking back. She pressed herself against the wall, her breath fast and panicked, her voice cracked into a plea. "No, please, no." The cafeteria went still. Daniel froze, holding the fork loosely in his hand. He realized just how deep her fear ran. To her, the sight of him holding it was no different than a soldier drawing a blade. He lowered it quickly, crouching down so she could see he meant no harm. Slowly he placed the fork on the table, far away from her side, and slid it across toward himself. "See?" he said calmly. "Just for me, not for you." She shook her head, eyes wet with unshed tears. Her lips moved, whispering old memories. "Fork, cut skin, take blood." The words spilled out like broken glass, sharp and painful. Daniel's chest tightened at her confession. Someone had used such tools on her kind, twisting something simple into something cruel. He pushed his tray aside, keeping both hands open on the table. "No cut," he promised, "not from me." Her breathing slowed slightly. Though her eyes still glistened with fear, she dared to look at the bread again and took another bite. This time she didn't tremble as much. Her hunger was stronger now, pushing against the weight of her memories. Daniel kept his voice low. "The fork isn't your enemy. It's a tool, just like fire. Fire can burn, but it can also keep you warm. Her gaze softened for a moment. Her mind wrestled with his words, trying to understand. She had only known pain from humans, but this one seemed different. He wasn't forcing her, he wasn't shouting. He wasn't laughing at her fear. He was simply waiting, offering patience. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the sound of her chewing bread. The whispers in the room died down, replaced by uneasy stares. No one dared to interrupt the strange bond forming in front of them. At last, the alien girl placed the last piece of bread on the table. Her hand still shook, but her eyes no longer avoided Daniel's. She whispered a single word, heavy with confusion and wonder. Why? Daniel leaned forward, his answer simple but strong. Because no one should fear eating. Her heart skipped, the sentence settling into her like a seed planted deep in soil. For the first time, her gaze moved from the fork to him, as though she was beginning to believe he might truly be different. And yet, deep in her mind, the fear of steel had not completely left. It still clung to her, whispering of betrayal, waiting for proof. The question hung between them like a blade. Could kindness really break the terror of metal? Or was she only waiting for the strike she thought must come? The moment stretched long and heavy, leaving the cafeteria wrapped in suspense. The bread was gone, but the hunger inside the alien girl was not. Her stomach growled again, louder this time, making her cheeks flush with shame. She pulled her knees closer to her chest, as if hiding the sound could make it disappear. Daniel noticed, his eyes softened. He reached for his tray, sliding it toward her little by little, careful not to startle her. On the tray was more food, pieces of cooked meat, a handful of vegetables, and another roll of bread. The steam rose gently from the meal, filling the air with warmth. The alien girl's eyes followed it like a starving animal watching prey, but her body stayed pressed against the wall. Her mind whispered danger, even while her stomach begged her to move. Daniel did not push the tray all the way. He left it halfway between them. His hand stayed visible on the table, fingers open, showing he had no intention to force her. His patience was steady, his calmness like a shield around her fear. The cafeteria had grown quiet. The humans who lingered pretended to eat, but their eyes kept drifting to the scene unfolding. Some were curious, some doubtful, some even annoyed, yet no one dared interrupt. It felt like the entire room was waiting for the alien girl's next move. Her throat tightened. She licked her lips without meaning to. Her eyes darted from Daniel to the food, then back to Daniel again. Trust was a heavy wall, one she had built over years of pain, and yet hunger struck that wall with every growl of her stomach. Slowly, she slid closer to the table. Her trembling hand reached forward, stopping inches from the tray. Her breath came in quick gasps. She expected him to strike the moment she touched it, but Daniel stayed still. His chest rose and fell in a calm rhythm, his gaze steady and gentle. Her fingers brushed the edge of a vegetable. She flinched, waiting for the blow that never came. Seconds passed, then with a trembling motion, she picked it up and placed it in her mouth. The taste hit her tongue, soft and earthy, cooked with care. Her eyes widened. She chewed slowly, almost afraid of the warmth spreading through her body. It was real. It was food, not poison, not pain. Her eyes closed for a moment as she swallowed. Tears threatened to spill down her cheeks, but she blinked them away quickly. She had survived on scraps in dark alleys, rotten food stolen from bins, but this was warm, clean, made for her. Daniel smiled faintly. Though he did not speak, he only watched as she took another piece, then another. Her movements were still cautious, but faster now. Her hunger was winning over her fear. Bite by bite, the wall inside her cracked, but then she froze. Her eyes fell once more on the fork sitting near Daniel's tray. She remembered its shine, the way it glinted like sharp teeth. Her hand hovered above the food. Fear clawing back into her chest, she whispered under her breath, "Weapon," as if reminding herself to stay cautious. Daniel noticed. He leaned forward slightly, picking up the fork again, but carefully. He held it not like a weapon, but like a teacher holding chalk. He used it to gently pick up a small piece of meat, slowly raising it for her to see. Then he placed it back onto the tray without eating it, showing her it caused no harm. Her brows knitted together. Her breathing hitched. Confusion replaced fear for a brief moment. "Why, like that?" she whispered. Daniel answered softly, "It's a tool, not a blade. It helps eat." The words did not erase her memories, but they planted a seed of doubt against them. Maybe the fork was not always meant for cruelty. Maybe in the hands of this human. It meant something else. Hesitantly, she reached out. Her fingers brushed the fork's handle. The cold metal sent a shiver through her. She pulled back quickly, hugging herself again. Her eyes filled with fear, but Daniel did not scold. He only nodded. "It's okay," he said. "Not ready." The alien girl's lips parted. Her body loosened a little at his words. No one had ever given her permission to refuse before. No one had ever said it was okay. Her heart beat faster. But not only with fear, there was something new, something unfamiliar. A spark of trust. She picked another piece of food with her hands and ate quickly, almost desperately. Each bite filled her with both strength and confusion. The human did not strike, did not shout, did not demand anything in return. Every moment proved her fears wrong, and yet her mind resisted. It was too hard to believe. Daniel leaned back again, giving her more space, his thoughts heavy. He wondered what she had gone through. What kind of people had taught her to fear something so small, so simple? His chest tightened at the thought of her past, but he stayed calm. He knew this was not the time for questions. Only patience. Minutes passed. The tray grew emptier, and the alien girl grew calmer. Her hands still shook, but less than before. Her eyes still darted around, but more often they returned to him, as if measuring whether his calmness was real or a mask. Finally, she whispered again, her voice trembling but stronger than before. "Why you?" Daniel looked at her, his answer simple. "Because you need it." Her heart stumbled at the words. No tricks, no hidden price, just truth. She stared at him, bread still in her hands, wondering if such humans really existed. Humans who offered without taking. Humans who gave without hurting. The first bite had not only broken her hunger, it had cracked open her fear. The room around her blurred. The whispers of others faded for the first time. The alien girl felt the weight of something she had never believed in before. Hope. But hope was fragile and fear was stubborn. And as she finished the last piece of food, her gaze once more drifted toward the fork. The question still haunted her heart. Could something that once brought only pain truly become a tool for peace? Or was this calm just the silence before the storm? The cafeteria held its breath again, waiting for the answer. The meal was nearly finished. Crumbs scattered on the tray. The alien girl's hands were steadier now, her breathing softer, but her eyes kept circling back to the fork. That small piece of steel seemed to carry the weight of her past. Daniel noticed. He knew her fear had not disappeared, only softened under hunger's shadow. If he wanted her to heal, he had to show her the truth with patience, not force. He picked up the fork again, slowly, carefully. His movements calm, measured, almost exaggerated so she could see every step. The alien girl stiffened, her fingers curling into her lap. Her body leaned back slightly, ready to flee. Her eyes locked onto the metal as if it might leap toward her. Daniel raised the fork, but instead of pointing it at her, he speared a small piece of vegetable. He lifted it gently, showing her how the prongs held food, not flesh. His voice came low and steady. "See, not weapon, just tool." Then he placed the food into his own mouth, chewing calmly. The alien girl blinked. Her eyes widened as if she expected him to suddenly strike. But when nothing happened, confusion spread across her face. She whispered almost to herself, "Tool for food." Daniel nodded, smiling softly. He speared another piece, then laid the fork back down. His hands open again. "You try." "Only if want," he said. His words carried no demand, only invitation. Her thin fingers twitched. The memory of steel slicing flesh screamed in her head, yet the kindness in his tone pulled against that memory. A war raged inside her chest. Her hand hovered, then pulled back. Her breath quickened. She whispered, "No." "Not safe." Daniel leaned back, his smile steady. "It's okay, not now. Maybe later," he replied. The room around them seemed to sigh at his patience. The alien girl tilted her head, puzzled. She had expected anger or scolding, but instead he gave her choice. That word, choice, felt new. Minutes passed. The cafeteria grew emptier as humans left, but Daniel stayed, never rushing her, never pushing. He picked up the fork again, this time offering it to her handle first across the table. His hand open, showing he meant no harm. "You hold, only hold." "No use," he said. Her heart pounded. Her fingers clenched her clothes. But something inside whispered that refusing forever meant the fear would own her. She stretched out her trembling hand slowly, carefully. Her fingertips brushed the cold metal, and she gasped. The chill of it ran through her. Memories flashing, she almost dropped it. But Daniel's voice caught her. "It's okay," he whispered. "Just hold." Her fingers wrapped around the handle fully. The fork felt heavier than it should, as if it carried the weight of all her fears. She stared at it, expecting it to hurt her just for touching. But nothing happened. Her hands shook. But she kept holding it. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Daniel gave a small nod. "Good," he said. "See? Safe." She looked at him, her eyes wet. The fear still there, but mixed with something else. Courage. She placed it back on the table quickly. Pulling her hands close to her chest, her lips trembled. "Why?" "Make me hold," she whispered. "Because you strong," Daniel answered. "Fear not forever," her breath hitched. The words pierced through her walls. For years she had been told she was weak, worthless, broken. Now this human told her the opposite. She wanted to believe him even if her fear still clung tightly. Daniel picked up another fork from a nearby tray, showing her both his and hers. He tapped them lightly together, the sound ringing soft like chimes. "See, not weapon, only tool," he repeated. His calmness carried weight. Each demonstration chipped away at her terror. The alien girl finally leaned closer. Her curiosity stronger than before. She touched the fork again, holding it longer this time, her grip steadier. Her eyes narrowed as she studied it. "Eat, not hurt," she whispered, repeating his lesson to herself. Daniel smiled wider. "Yes, eat. Not hurt." Slowly he guided her hand toward the tray, showing how to pierce a small piece of vegetable. Her hand shook badly at first, the fork slipping. The food rolled away. A tiny sound of frustration escaped her lips. She almost gave up. But Daniel gently adjusted her fingers. "Try again," he said, patient. This time the prongs caught the vegetable. She lifted it, eyes wide in disbelief. It did not feel like violence, it felt like control. Gentle control. She brought it to her lips and ate. The taste was no different, but the act felt powerful for the first time. She had used the object that once symbolized pain as a tool for life. Tears welled in her eyes. She placed the fork down carefully. Her hands covering her face, a choked sound escaped her throat. A mix of relief and release. Daniel did not touch her, did not speak. He simply let her feel, knowing this moment was hers. When she finally lowered her hands, her eyes shone wet but brighter. She whispered, "Not weapon, tool," as if engraving the truth into her heart. Daniel leaned forward, his voice warm. "Yes, and now you know. No one can take that truth from you." The alien girl sat taller, her shoulders no longer hunched. For the first time, she looked less like prey and more like someone reclaiming a piece of herself. Yet deep inside, a shadow still whispered, what if this kindness was only temporary? What if another human came and used the fork the way she remembered? That doubt lingered, but so did hope. And as she looked at Daniel again, holding the fork steady in her hand, she realized something important. Trust did not come all at once. It came bite by bite, moment by moment. The human had shown her patience, the fork had shown her fear, but together they had given her something greater. Her first lesson in courage, and though she still trembled, the cafeteria now felt less like a prison and more like the beginning of something new. The fork rested gently in her hand, no longer a monster of steel, but still heavy with memories. The alien girl's breathing slowed, her chest rising and falling in uneven rhythm. She had taken the first step. She had touched it, used it, and eaten without harm. But fear was not a beast that vanished in a single moment. It lingered, waiting for the chance to return. Daniel saw the struggle in her eyes. He knew victory over fear did not come from one lesson. It came from time, from patience, from proving again and again that trust could live where pain once ruled. He leaned back, giving her space, but his voice was steady. "You did good," he said. "You stronger than fear." The alien girl blinked at him, her lips parted. She wanted to answer, but the words tangled in her throat. Instead, she looked down at the fork in her hand. Her fingers tightened, and for a moment she felt proud that she had not let go, proud that she had chosen to face what haunted her. But the whispers started again. Some humans at the far end of the cafeteria spoke in low voices. "Why is he wasting food on her?" one muttered. "It's dangerous letting one of them in," another said. Their words floated through the quiet air, sharp and cold. The alien girl flinched as if struck. Her eyes darted around, her fear clawing back. She pressed the fork down hard on the table, ready to drop it and run. Her body curled tight, shoulders trembling. Daniel's jaw clenched. He turned his head sharply toward the voices. His gaze cut through the air like a blade. The men silenced quickly, looking away under his stare. The cafeteria grew quiet once more, but the damage was already done. Fear had returned, whispering in her heart, reminding her she did not belong. Daniel reached forward, placing his hand gently on the table between them, not touching her but close enough to anchor her. "Ignore them," he said softly. "Look at me." "Only me." Her glowing eyes lifted. Hesitant, searching his face. His calmness met her fear. His steadiness fought her trembling. She clutched the fork again, her hand shaking. "They hate me," she whispered, her voice small, cracked. Daniel shook his head. "Not all, not me," he answered firmly. "Hate is their chain, not yours. You don't have to wear it." The words sank into her chest. Heavy and strange, she had always worn chains, chains of fear, chains of hunger, chains of silence. But now this human told her she could choose not to. Could it be true? Could she break them? She lifted the fork again, her hand trembling but stronger. She speared another piece of food, slower this time but more confident. She brought it to her lips and ate. When she swallowed, a new warmth filled her, not just from the food but from the choice. She had chosen not to let fear stop her. Her eyes watered, but these were not only tears of fear. They carried something else, relief, strength, even pride. She whispered to herself, "Not chain, not hurt," over and over like a mantra. Each repetition broke another link in the invisible shackles around her. Daniel watched her closely. He knew this was not about eating, it was about healing. Each bite was a small rebellion against her past. Each use of the fork was proof that the chains of fear could be broken. He did not rush her. He let the silence hold the weight of the moment. Finally, she lowered the fork. Her hands rested on the table, her gaze rose to his, shimmering with emotion. "Why, you help?" she asked again. But this time her voice was different, not full of suspicion but full of longing. Daniel leaned forward, his tone quiet but strong. "Because no one helped you before, because someone should." Her throat tightened. Her chest shook with a sound halfway between a sob and a laugh. She covered her mouth, trembling, not knowing how to accept such words. In her world, kindness had always been a lie. Yet here it was, simple and unbroken, she whispered. "You make chains weak," Daniel nodded. His gaze steady. "Then break them one by one. You don't have to carry them anymore." The alien girl stared at him, the weight of his words pressing against her heart. Could she really break free? Could she really live without fear? The thought was terrifying, but it was also beautiful for the first time. She saw not just food on the table, but a doorway to something bigger, something freer. She lifted the fork again, steadier now. She pierced a piece of food and ate. This time her back did not curl. This time her shoulders did not tremble. The room still watched. But she did not shrink from their eyes. She let them see, let them witness that fear no longer ruled her completely. When she finished, she placed the fork gently back on the tray. Her fingers lingered on it, tracing the cool metal. Her lips curved slightly. "The smallest of smiles," she whispered. "Not weapon, not chain. Only tool." Daniel exhaled slowly, pride filling his chest. The chains had not fully broken, but cracks had formed. Cracks wide enough for hope to slip through. The alien girl sat straighter, taller. Her glowing eyes no longer just frightened, they carried a spark of defiance. For the first time, she looked not like a victim, but like someone beginning to fight back against the shadows of her past. Yet far away in the shadows of the cafeteria, another pair of eyes watched, cold and calculating. Not everyone wanted her to break free. Not everyone wanted the chains to fall. The storm of suspicion was coming, and Daniel knew it, but for now, in this fragile moment, one simple truth echoed inside the alien girl's heart. Fear could be broken, and with each bite she was learning how. The cafeteria was almost empty now. Chairs pushed back, trays stacked on counters. The hum of the lights filled the silence. Daniel and the alien girl remained at the table, her hands resting near the fork. Her shoulders straighter than before, the fear was not gone, but it no longer ruled her completely. For the first time, she had tasted food without trembling. For the first time, she had looked at the fork and not seen only pain. Daniel studied her carefully. His heart ached at the sight of her thin frame. The shadows under her eyes, the marks across her skin. Whoever she was, wherever she came from, she had suffered more than anyone deserved. He wanted to say something, but he knew words alone were not enough. She needed more than comfort, she needed safety. The alien girl glanced around nervously, Her glowing eyes caught the stares of the last few humans still sitting nearby. Some looked away quickly, but others did not hide their unease. Whispers floated again. Why is she here? What if she's dangerous? What if she calls more of them? Each word landed like a stone on her chest. Her breath quickened. Her fingers twitched toward the fork again, not in trust this time, but in fear. Daniel noticed instantly. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Ignore them, look at me, only me. His words carried strength, pulling her focus back to him. Her breathing slowed. Her gaze locked on his face. Searching for truth, she whispered. They hate me. Always hate me. Her voice cracked, her hands curled into fists. No place. No safe. Daniel's jaw tightened. He reached across the table, resting his hand flat on the surface between them. Still not touching her, but close enough to bridge the distance. You are safe here, he said firmly. I promise. Her eyes widened. The word rolled through her mind like thunder. Promise. She tilted her head, confused. Promise, she repeated softly, as if tasting the meaning. Daniel nodded. Yes, a promise. I won't hurt you. I won't let them hurt you. Not while I breathe, the alien girl's lips trembled. Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever promised safety. Her whole life had been running, hiding, waiting for the next strike. Now this human said he would stand between her and the world. Her voice shook. Why you do this? Daniel leaned closer. His eyes steady, his tone low. Because someone should have done it long ago. Because no one deserves chains. No one deserves fear every day. Her chest rose sharply. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She wanted to believe him, but belief was dangerous. Trust was dangerous still. The warmth of his words slipped past her walls. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, safe, as if testing the word against her heart. Daniel smiled softly. Yes, safe. She leaned forward slightly, the fork still on the table, her thin fingers brushing against it. This time she did not flinch. She lifted it slowly. Holding it steady in her hand, she looked at him with eyes wide and trembling. Safe. Because you promise, Daniel nodded again. Because I promise. For the first time she smiled, small and fragile, but real. It lit her face, softening the lines of fear. Daniel's chest tightened at the sight. It was the kind of smile that came from someone who had not smiled in a long time, but shadows lingered. The cafeteria doors creaked open. A guard stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room. His gaze landed on the alien girl. His brow furrowed. What is this? He muttered. His hand dropped to the weapon at his side. The alien girl froze. Her smile vanished instantly. Her heart hammered in her chest. Fear crashed back into her, stronger than before. She gripped the fork tightly, her hand shaking. Daniel rose quickly, stepping between the guard and the girl, his voice firm. She's with me, the guard frowned. With you, Daniel, you don't know what she is. She could be dangerous. Daniel shook his head, his shoulders squared. She's not dangerous, she's scared. And she's hungry. His voice grew harder. And she's under my protection. The alien girl's eyes widened. She had never seen anyone stand for her, never seen anyone speak for her. His words struck her deeper than any weapon could. Her grip on the fork loosened, her trembling slowing. The guard's eyes narrowed. He hesitated, then sighed. Your responsibility, he muttered before leaving. The door shut behind him, the tension fading but not gone. The alien girl lowered the fork slowly. Her hands shaking, she whispered, You fight. For me? Daniel turned back to her, kneeling so their eyes were level. Yes, I'll fight for you. I'll keep my promise. Her chest shook. A tear slipped down her cheek. She covered her face with her hands, whispering again and again, safe, safe. Safe. Daniel did not touch her, but his presence wrapped around her like a shield. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe. Maybe, just maybe, she was not alone anymore. The cafeteria grew quiet once more, but the silence felt different. It was no longer heavy with fear. It was heavy with promise. Daniel knew the road ahead would not be easy. Fear and suspicion would return, enemies would come, but tonight, he had given her something no one had ever given before. His word, his promise, and in her heart fragile hope began to bloom. Breaking through the cracks of fear, the promise still echoed in her heart. The human's words repeated in her mind again and again. Safe, I promise. She held on to them like a fragile flame in the dark. For the first time in her life, the alien girl believed someone might truly mean it. Her eyes no longer darted wildly to every corner of the room. Instead, they often returned to Daniel. Steady and calm, the cafeteria was empty now. The whispers and judgmental stares had gone, leaving only the hum of lights and the soft clink of trays being cleaned in the distance. The alien girl sat across from Daniel, the fork resting on the table between them. No longer a threat, but not yet a friend. She reached for it again, fingers trembling but steady enough to lift. She turned it in her hand, studying the shine. The way the light reflected off the smooth metal, her voice came in a whisper, "Not weapon." She glanced at Daniel, her lips trembling into a small hesitant smile. "Tool," Daniel nodded, his heart swelling. "Yes, a tool, and now you know," she breathed out slowly, a shaky laugh escaping her lips. It was soft, almost fragile, but it was the first laugh he had heard from her. The sound warmed the space between them. He leaned back, letting her have the moment, his chest heavy with both relief and pride. But trust was not built in a single night. He knew that. She still flinched when the door opened, still pressed her hands together when voices rose, still carried shadows that whispered she was not safe, yet step by step, bite by bite, she had walked closer to freedom, closer to him. Daniel cleared his throat softly. "You don't have to run anymore," he said. "You can stay here if you want." Her eyes widened. The word stay hit her like a storm. Her lips parted, disbelief flooding her face. "Stay," she repeated as if she had never heard it offered before. "Yes, stay," Daniel said firmly. "Not as prisoner, not as burden, as guest." "As friend?" Her hands trembled. She pressed one hand against her chest. Her heart pounded wildly. The idea of a home, of being allowed to remain without chains or fear, was something she had never dared imagine. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Friend?" Daniel smiled. "Yes, friend." Her throat tightened. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. Spilling silently down her cheeks, she bowed her head, clutching the fork to her chest as though it were no longer a chain but a key, a symbol of her first step toward freedom. She whispered again, "Friend," this time louder, clearer. The word carried weight. It was not only a name for him, it was a promise of her own. A promise to trust, to try. Daniel stood slowly, reaching out his hand across the table. His palm opened steady. "Come with me," he said gently. "Let's leave this place. Start fresh." The alien girl looked at his hand, fear flickering for a moment. Her old instincts screamed to pull back, to hide, to run, but her new strength whispered louder. She reached forward, her thin fingers trembling as they touched his palm. Warmth spread through her hand. Her eyes widened as if the simple contact broke the last chain holding her. For the first time in years, she felt safe in someone's touch. She clutched his hand tightly, refusing to let go. They left the cafeteria together. The empty hallways echoed with their footsteps. At first, her grip was weak, fragile, but as they walked, it grew stronger, more certain. Every step away from that table felt like a step away from her past. As they reached the door to the outer corridor, she stopped. Her glowing eyes lifted to him. "You keep promise," she whispered, not as a question but as a truth. Daniel looked back at her, his voice steady. "Always." Her lips curved into a smile. Wider this time, brighter. Her eyes shimmered, not just with fear but with hope. She lifted the fork still in her other hand, holding it out between them. "This," she said softly, "was fear now. Friendship." Daniel's chest tightened. He nodded. "Yes, friendship." The alien girl clutched the fork one last time before slipping it into her pocket. Not as a weapon, not as a chain, but as a reminder of what she had overcome together. They stepped into the night beyond the cafeteria, the air cool and filled with stars. For the galaxy, it was a small moment. Unnoticed, unmarked, but for her it was everything. She had walked into a room trembling with fear, believing every human hand carried pain. And now she walked out beside one, holding his hand, calling him her friend. Her heart whispered a truth she had never believed before. A simple kindness could break the heaviest fear. A single promise could change a life. And as Daniel walked with her into the unknown, their bond growing stronger with every step, the galaxy shifted quietly. For in that fragile friendship was a power greater than any weapon. The power to heal, the power to trust, the power to turn fear into friendship.